Imagine your mind as a battlefield where negative thoughts storm relentlessly, threatening to imprison you in doubt, fear, and despair. But what if you could become the commander of this battlefield, turning every shadow into a stepping stone, every hardship into an act of courage? This is the essence of mastering your negative thoughts through the timeless wisdom of Stoicism. In this journey, adversity stops being your enemy and transforms into your greatest teacher, revealing hidden strengths like patience, courage, and the art of letting go. You'll discover how reason acts as an unwavering shield against the chaos within, allowing you to discern what truly matters from the noise of misleading emotions. By questioning the reality of your thoughts, by preparing your mind through the practice of historical visualization, and by embracing what lies within your control, you create an unshakable inner freedom. This freedom empowers you to respond rather than react, to craft your story with intentionality, not to be shaped by outside circumstances or social pressures. Ultimately, mastering your perspective isn't just about silencing negativity. It's about unlocking a deeper, more meaningful way to live. A life where you focus on possibilities beyond limitations. You'll walk away not just equipped to handle mental storms, but inspired to live boldly, grounded in reason, resilience, and the profound truth that your mind is yours to command. If this is making sense to you so far, like the video and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Your simple action can be a beacon for another soul navigating the storm within. We've talked about the battlefield of the mind and how simply questioning the reality of our thoughts, asking ourselves, is this truly an objective fact or just my interpretation, can be the first crucial step toward reclaiming command. This practice unveils the profound truth that most of our suffering isn't caused by events themselves, but by our judgments about them. It allows us to see the cracks in the fortress of our negative thoughts, recognizing them not as unassailable truths, but as mere suggestions, often born of habit or fear. But questioning is just the beginning. The Stoics didn't stop at merely observing their thoughts. They actively trained their minds, not just to withstand the inevitable blows of life, but to anticipate them, to integrate them into their very being, and thereby to strip them of their power to surprise and overwhelm. This brings us to a profoundly counterintuitive, yet immensely powerful Stoic practice, premeditatio malorum, or what we might call negative visualization. Now, don't let the term negative mislead you. This isn't about wallowing in pessimism or inviting disaster. Quite the opposite. It's a sophisticated mental exercise designed to inoculate you against the shock of loss and misfortune, to build an inner fortress of resilience, and to cultivate a profound sense of gratitude for what you currently possess. Think of it as a mental fire drill. You wouldn't wait for your house to be engulfed in flames to figure out your escape route, would you? Similarly, the Stoics understood that waiting for adversity to strike before preparing your mind is a recipe for panic and despair. So how does negative visualization work in practice? It involves intentionally spending time each day contemplating the potential loss of things you hold dear. Imagine losing your job, not just abstractly, but vividly. Picture the conversation, the feeling of uncertainty, the practical implications. Or imagine losing a loved one, not in a morbid way, but acknowledging their impermanence, recognizing that they are on loan to you from life. Envision your health failing, your possessions being stolen, your reputation being unjustly tarnished. This isn't about inviting these misfortunes. It's about mentally rehearsing your response to them, so that should they occur, they don't catch you entirely off guard. Our minds, by default, tend to cling fiercely to what we have, operating under the implicit assumption that things will continue as they are. This creates a deep vulnerability. When the inevitable shifts occur, and they always do, we are left reeling, feeling as though an injustice has been done, or that our world has been unfairly shattered. Consider a modern scenario. You're working tirelessly on a project, pouring your heart and soul into it, convinced it will be a resounding success. The Stoic practice of negative visualization would encourage you to, for a moment, consider the possibility that it might fail. What if the client rejects it? What if it's met with indifference? What if a competitor releases something similar that completely overshadows your effort? By calmly contemplating these possibilities, you begin to detach your sense of self-worth from the outcome. You acknowledge that while you control your effort and skill, the ultimate result often lies beyond your complete control. The benefit here is twofold. First, it reduces the emotional blow if the negative event actually occurs. You've already mentally processed a version of it, allowing you to move through the initial shock more quickly and shift your energy toward problem solving rather than paralysis. You're not starting from zero, wrestling with the sheer unexpectedness of it all. You've already built some mental calluses. Second, and perhaps even more profoundly, negative visualization deepens your appreciation for the present moment. When you consciously consider the loss of your loved ones, you're reminded to cherish their presence right now. When you imagine losing your job, you're prompted to value your current employment and the stability it provides. When you visualize losing your health, you're spurred to take better care of yourself and to be grateful for the vitality you possess today. This isn't a morbid exercise. It's an active cultivation of gratitude that transforms everyday existence into something precious and profound. It moves you away from taking things for granted, which is a common source of discontent in our modern lives. We are so often focused on what we lack, or what might go wrong in the future, that we forget the immense blessings we already have. Negative visualization brings these blessings into sharp relief, making them shine brighter in the light of potential absence. This practice also builds courage. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the willingness to act in the face of it. By mentally confronting potential hardships, you become more familiar with the landscape of fear, making it less alien and therefore less intimidating. You realize that while these scenarios are challenging, they are not insurmountable. You begin to understand that even if the worst happens, you possess an inner capacity to adapt, to rebuild, to endure. You discover the inherent resilience of the human spirit, which Stoicism relentlessly aims to cultivate. It prepares you to meet life not as a victim of circumstance, but as an active participant, ready for whatever it throws your way. So when the mind begins its anxious chatter, contemplating what might go wrong, the Stoic doesn't recoil. Instead, they lean in. They transform that natural human tendency to worry into a constructive exercise. Instead of letting vague anxieties gnaw at them, they precisely define what it is they fear, then mentally walk through it, anticipating their response. This shift from passive worry to active mental preparation is a game changer. It's the difference between being swept away by a wave and knowing how to ride it. This brings us to the bedrock principle that underpins both questioning our thoughts and practicing negative visualization. The dichotomy of control. This concept, famously articulated by Epictetus, is arguably the most liberating teaching in all of Stoicism. It states simply yet profoundly that some things are up to us and some are not up to us. This isn't just a philosophical idea. It's a practical framework for navigating every moment of your life. What is up to us? Our opinions, our impulses, our desires, our aversions, in short, everything that is an act of our own mind. This encompasses our judgments, our attitudes, our values, and our responses to external events. These are internal, they are voluntary, and they are entirely within our power to shape and direct. What is not up to us? Our body, our property, our reputation, our social standing, other people's actions, external events, and ultimately, the outcomes of our efforts. These are external, they are involuntary, and they are beyond our direct control. They are what Epictetus calls indifferent, meaning they are morally neutral and do not, in themselves, determine our happiness or suffering. It is only our judgment about them that does. Think about your daily frustrations. The traffic jam that makes you late for an important meeting. The unexpected bill that throws your budget off balance. A critical comment from a colleague, or a dismissive attitude from a friend. The outcome of a job interview you aced but didn't get. A sudden illness. In each of these scenarios, our natural inclination is to fixate on the external event or the actions of others, to rail against them, to feel victimized or resentful. We pour our precious mental and emotional energy into things that are fundamentally beyond our ability to change. The dichotomy of control doesn't ask you to be indifferent to these things, but to recognize where your power truly lies. You cannot control the traffic, but you can control your reaction to it. You can choose to fume and rage, arriving at your meeting stressed and unfocused, or you can choose to use the time to listen to a podcast, practice mindfulness, or simply accept the delay with equanimity. You cannot control the unexpected bill, but you can control how you assess your financial situation and what steps you take to address it. You cannot control a colleague's unkind words, but you can control whether you internalize them, let them define you, or calmly dismiss them as irrelevant to your own self-worth. This is not passive acceptance, it is active redirection. It's about consciously withdrawing your energy from the realm of the uncontrollable and investing it fully in the realm of the controllable. When you practice this discernment, you stop chasing after shadows and begin to cultivate genuine freedom. For what is freedom, if not the ability to govern oneself, to be unburdened by external circumstances, and to remain unperturbed by the whims of fortune? Consider a person whose happiness is entirely contingent on their social media metrics, or their job title, or their material possessions, or the approval of others. When these external factors inevitably fluctuate, their inner peace shatters. They are enslaved to external validation, constantly seeking to control the uncontrollable. The Stoic, armed with the dichotomy of control, understands that true happiness and tranquility reside not in having a perfect life externally, but in cultivating a resilient, rational, and virtuous life internally. This understanding frees you from the tyranny of outcomes. You can strive for excellence in your work, nurture your relationships, and care for your body, but you do so with a profound awareness that the results are not entirely yours to command. Your focus shifts from getting what you want to being the kind of person who pursues what is right, regardless of the external rewards or setbacks. This is the essence of responding rather than reacting. When events unfold, you don't merely react with instinctual emotion. You pause, apply reason, and choose a response that aligns with your values and is within your control. This brings us to the profound idea of crafting your story with intentionality, not to be shaped by outside circumstances or social pressures. When you consistently apply the dichotomy of control, you become the author of your life, not merely a character being buffeted by the plot. You decide what meaning you assign to events. You decide what kind of person you will be in the face of adversity. You decide what impact external opinions will have on your inner world. Think about the relentless pressure of modern society, the unspoken rules, the endless comparisons, the commercial narratives telling us what we need to be happy. These are all external circumstances and social pressures that attempt to dictate our internal state, to shape our story for us. The Stoic, having internalized the dichotomy of control, stands apart. They recognize these pressures as external, as outside their control. They are free to choose their own values, to define their own success, and to walk their own path, unswayed by the fleeting opinions of others or the siren song of consumerism. Their sense of worth comes from within, from living in accordance with reason and virtue, not from external validation. This is the unshakable inner freedom promised by Stoicism. It's not about becoming emotionless or uncaring. It's about becoming the master of your emotional landscape, rather than its slave. It's about understanding that while you cannot always choose what happens to you, you always choose how you respond. And in that choice lies your power, your dignity, and your ultimate freedom. So how do all these pieces fit together to unlock a deeper, more meaningful way to live? We started with the idea of your mind as a battlefield. By questioning the reality of your negative thoughts, you begin to identify the enemy, not external events, but your own misguided judgments. By practicing negative visualization, you train your mental forces, preparing them for future skirmishes, cultivating resilience and gratitude. And by internalizing the dichotomy of control, you learn to strategically deploy your energy, focusing all your might on what you can actually influence, your own character, your own choices, your own inner world, while wisely conserving your resources from the battles you cannot win. This isn't just about silencing negativity. It's about amplifying purpose. When you stop wasting energy on what you cannot change, you free up an immense reserve of mental and emotional capacity for what truly matters. You can pour that energy into your passions, into serving others, into cultivating wisdom, into nurturing deep and meaningful relationships. You begin to focus on possibilities beyond limitations, because the artificial limitations imposed by fear, worry, and the need for external validation begin to crumble. You're no longer defined by your anxieties or your external circumstances. You are defined by your character, your choices, and your unwavering commitment to living a life guided by reason. This empowers you to live boldly, not recklessly, but with a grounded confidence that comes from knowing your inner fortress is impregnable. It's a life grounded in reason, resilience, and the profound truth that your mind is yours to command. This is the ultimate victory on the battlefield of the mind. It is the realization that while the world outside may rage and roar, Within you, there can always be a sanctuary of peace, a stronghold of wisdom, and a wellspring of courage. You don't just equip yourself to handle mental storms. You become the kind of person who can look a storm in the eye, understand its nature, and navigate through it with an unshakable inner compass. Stoics knew that true power is not found in dominating others or bending the world to your will, but in mastering yourself. As Seneca wisely put it, it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. The richness of your life, the depth of your peace, and the strength of your spirit are not measured by what you acquire, but by what you conquer within. They are measured by your ability to discern, to accept, and to act in accordance with your highest self. Your mind is yours to command. The tools are before you. The wisdom has been passed down through millennia. The only question that remains is, will you seize this command? Will you take up the mantle of your own internal sovereignty and craft a life that reflects the indomitable power of your own liberated mind? If this message resonated with you, consider subscribing to the channel for more insights into living a life of purpose and resilience. And I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. What is one negative thought or external circumstance you feel most challenged by? And how might these Stoic principles help you approach it differently? Your journey is your own, but we walk this path together.